Hello students of class 12th. I welcome you in today's English literature lecture. Today we will continue with the explanation of the lesson A Fellow Traveler, written by A.G. Gardner. Students, in the previous lecture I have given you the reference, context and explanation of 5 paragraphs. Now, today I'll start with the 6th paragraph. It is as follows. It was all in vain. He played with me openly and ostentatiously, like a skillful matador, finessing round an infuriated bull. It was obvious that he was enjoying himself, that it was for this that he had disturbed my repose. Now, this is a very important paragraph regarding reference, context and explanation. Children, as you all must be seeing this lecture in your mobile phones or on your computers. So, in mobile phones it is little bit difficult to read because the font is very small. Therefore, I am going to read each and every line so that if you are not able to follow or to see it properly, you can at least listen to my lecture and write down in your copies. Reference. These lines have been taken from the lesson A Fellow Traveler, written by A.G. Gardner. Context. Here the author describes the manner in which the mosquito was troubling him in the train. Explanation. The author made attempts to kill the mosquito but without any success. Instead of getting afraid, the mosquito was making a fun of the author. He was making a show of his skill and insulting the author by flying around him in a fearless way. The mosquito was like a bullfighter matador, and the author was like a bull. So, the mosquito looked like an expert bullfighter who moves around the angry bull with ease and skill. The author thought that the mosquito was enjoying while teasing him in his peaceful rest. Next, number 7. He wanted a little sport, and what sport like being chased by this huge lumbering windmill of a creature who tasted so good and seemed so helpless and so stupid. Reference. These lines have been taken from the lesson A Fellow Traveler, written by A.G. Gardner. Context. In these lines, the author describes the sporting mosquito. Explanation. The author thinks that perhaps the mosquito is a sport-loving creature and wants to play with him. He thinks that the mosquito is a very small insect. In its comparison, the author is very big. So, the mosquito must be thinking of him as a very, very large and windmill-like creature running after it, that is mosquito. The mosquito might be liking the good taste of the author's blood. The author asks whether the mosquito would be laughing at him as a weak and foolish fellow on his helplessness in killing it. Now, the 8th paragraph. This is one of the most important paragraphs of this lesson. Magnanimity and mercy were the noblest attributes of man. In the exercise of these high qualities, I could recover my prestige. At present, I was a ridiculous figure in a thing for laughter and derision. By being merciful, I could reassert the moral dignity of man and go back to my corner with honor. I withdraw the sentence of death, I said, returning to my seat. I cannot kill you, but I can reprieve you. I do it. Reference: these lines have been taken from the lesson A Fellow Traveler, written by A.G. Gardiner. Context: the writer was traveling in a lonely compartment with a mosquito. The mosquito had troubled him a lot. Therefore, the writer made several attempts to kill it, but his efforts were in vain. Then he gave up anger and became merciful towards the fellow traveler mosquito. Explanation: the author says that generosity and kindness are the highest qualities of man. If he can be liberal and kind to the mosquito, he will become a very noble man in the eyes of the mosquito. The author feels that his defeats have made him a funny person. The mosquito must be laughing at him. He therefore thinks to be kind to it to regain his lost honor. So he goes back to his seat and gives up his idea of killing the mosquito. Now the number 9. The obligation is mutual, and it is founded on the fundamental fact that we are fellow mortals. The miracle of life is ours in common, and its mystery too. I suppose you don't know anything about your journey. I am not sure that I know much about mine. Reference: these lines have been taken from the lesson A Fellow Traveler, written by A.G. Gardiner. Context: in these lines, A.G. Gardiner finds the common points between the mosquito and his own self, that is, human being. Explanation: the author says that he is obliged to the mosquito, and the mosquito should also feel obliged to him in return. The relation of obligation is there because both of them are fellow beings and will die one day. The lives of the author and the mosquito have many common surprises. Their lives have many secrets also. Here, the author compares its journey with his life. He writes that the mosquito does not know anything about its journey in the train. Similarly, the author also does not know anything about the mystery of his own life. The 10th paragraph. The miracle of life is ours in common, and its mystery too. I suppose you don't know anything about your journey. I am not sure that I know much about mine. We are really, when you come to think of it, a good deal alike. Just apparitions that are and then are not, coming out of the night into the lighted carriage, fluttering about the lamp for a while, and going out into the night again. Reference: these lines have been taken from the lesson A Fellow Traveler, written by A.G. Gardiner. Context: in these lines, A.G. Gardiner compares his journey in the train with the course of his own life. He also finds common points between the life of the mosquito and of his own life. Explanation: the author says that the mosquito does not know anything of its journey in the train. In the same way, A.G. Gardiner also does not know anything of the journey of his own life. He finds that living beings are just like shadows. They disappear any time, any day. The mosquito comes from the dark into the lighted carriage, flies around the light for some time and again goes out into the dark of night. In the same way, man also comes from some uncommon place, lives his own life in the world and dies. He thus disappears into the mysteries darkness beyond his death. Paragraph number 11. Though knowing you better, I have come to feel, shall I say, a sort of affection for you. I fancy that Saint Francis would have called you little brother. I cannot go so far as that in Christian charity and civility, but I recognize a more distant relationship. Reference to this paragraph? These lines have been extracted from the chapter A Fellow Traveler, written by A.G. Gardiner. Context: when the writer was not able to kill the mosquito, he decided to pardon him and withdrew the death sentence. Explanation: the writer gave up the idea of killing the mosquito. He accepted his defeat and changed his feelings for it. After knowing it better, he developed a sort of love for it. He supposed that Saint Francis, a famous saint, called the insect little brother. He taught the people to love all the creatures on the earth. The writer could not go to that extent of Christian charity and humanism, but he felt a distant relationship with the mosquito. This is the 12th and again an important paragraph. Going on tonight, sir, said a voice at the window. It was a friendly porter giving me a hint that this was my station. I thanked him and said I must have been dozing, and seizing my hat and stick, I went out into the cool summer night. As I closed the door of the compartment, I saw my fellow traveler fluttering round the lamp. Reference: these lines have been taken from the lesson The Fellow Traveler, written by A.G. Gardiner. Context: this is the last paragraph of the lesson. Here the author leaves the train and the mosquito remains fluttering round the lamp. Explanation: the train stopped at the station of the author. The author did not care to get down because his mind was busy with the activities of the mosquito. A friendly porter saw him lost in his thoughts. He reminded the author that he had to get down there. The author felt thankful to the porter and admitted that he was feeling sleepy. The author took his hat and stick and got down the train. The air was cool outside. It was night of the summer season. As Mr. Gardiner closed the door of the compartment, he saw that the mosquito was flying round the lamp in the compartment. Paragraph number 13. I do not know which of us got into the carriage first. Indeed, I did not know he was in the carriage at all for some time. It was the last train from London to a Midland town, a stopping train, an infinitely leisurely train, one of those trains which give you an understanding of eternity. Reference: these lines have been taken from the lesson The Fellow Traveler, written by A.G. Gardiner. Children, this paragraph is the starting of the lesson, but I have given it last because I had missed this paragraph. Context: the author was traveling in a night train. By and by, all the other passengers got down and he found himself quite alone in that carriage. Explanation: the author saw that there was a mosquito also in the same carriage. This mosquito became his fellow traveler. The author does not know who entered the carriage first. This train started from London. It was going to some town in the middle of the country. It was a local train. Its speed was slow. It also stopped at all the stations on the way. It took a lot of time. If anyone travels by such trains, he gets much knowledge of the time, as he again and again wants to know how much time has passed. So children, today I have completed all the explanation paragraphs. Now it is your duty to note it down, all these reference, context and explanations along with their paragraphs in your copies. In the next lecture, I shall come with question and answers. So for today, this much only. Thank you.